Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here with Ms. Jason A. Smith and Mr. Ryan, Parent-Chief, both of the Barclay Institute. My name is Eron. This is Bermuda Voices. Today we're going to talk about the social issues facing our island and how it affects young people. Mr. Parent-Chief, you can tell the people a little bit about yourself.
My name is Ryan Robinson, Parent-Chief. I'm 17 years old. I attend the Barclay Institute. I'm graduating this year, and I'll be off after summertime. I'm very passionate about social issues as well as other issues affecting the community today, and I'm just glad to be here to contribute.
Ms. Smith?
Good evening. My name is Jason A. Smith. I also attend the Barclay Institute. I'm 17 and I'm in my last year of high school. I'm extremely passionate about social issues because I feel like it knocks on my front door as well as many other people's, and so therefore I'm very honored to be here to speak about these issues today.
So, speaking about social issues, that's a rather broad term. How would you define social issues, and what are some that you see in our community today, especially affecting us as young people?
There's so many, but I think the main ones that are affecting young people today would be the increase of violence. I believe that a big issue that I'm very passionate on is the increase of sexual relations, inappropriate sexual relations between young people, because I feel like we're getting very careless. Another one would be social issues, just basic things that, basic cultural things that I think we are losing as young people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think those three are the main ones, and then underneath those, it's like branches out to smaller ones.
And so what about, more what we see on our daily newspaper? Just yesterday, last evening, a young man was shot, and so we see the increase of gun crimes, and some of these individuals, both the victims and some of the convicted perpetrators, are very young, and so this has to hit close to home, especially, like I said, the age of both the offenders and the victims. How do you feel about this increase in social epidemic? It seemed to have calmed down for a while, but it's coming around.
Particularly with guns and gangs, it's unfortunate, but it looks like it's here to stay. When it first started, before it started, a lot of people were blind to the fact that we had crews, or what some would call gangs at the time. And you had the machete, you had the occasional stabbing, and then it turned into gun crime, and everybody said, oh, we have a surge in gun crime, we have a little spate of gun crime, they would call it. But that spate has now lasted, more than 10 years now. So it's obvious, and I think it's time for people to accept that it's here to stay. That could be either because we haven't done enough to address it, or because of the sadder reason, people are now desensitized to it. And so it's unfortunate to me to see that when the shootings first started happening, and you had people sending around messages, oh no, there was a shooting, or what happened, who, what, where, when, why, how.
Mm-hmm.
Now, oh, there was a shooting yesterday, I didn't even know.
Right.
So it looks like it's something that is becoming a part of our culture,
Mm-hmm.
as far as our particular generation.
Right.
It's normal to us. It's not something where we've experienced the old and now all of a sudden this has come. It
Right.
seems to us like, it seems to me personally, that children are growing up living this life now. And
Right.
so it's unfortunate to see that happening.
And as a young man, how does it affect you as a young man? Because, some of these individuals perpetrating these crimes, there was a time where, the visors, the dark-faced visors, you couldn't be riding with a dark-faced visor. So does it affect how you operate as a young man? Wearing a hoodie, for instance, because I'm wearing a suit now, but when I'm relaxing at my house, I'm not wearing a suit. And so does it affect how you dress, how you carry yourself, in fear of being portrayed or being put in the same category as some of these young men that are perpetrating these crimes?
Me personally, no. Friends, people that I know, definitely. I grew up in a more sheltered environment, attending private school for the better part of my life, and not being surrounded by the real issues that affected Bermudians. Now that I'm at a public school, I see it a lot more. It doesn't sweep over the school. It's not like the school is plagued by it.
Right.
And in recent years, actually, it seems to have gotten a lot better at this school.
Mm-hmm.
As far as guns and gangs, you don't see it being aired out around the campus and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as a lot of people that I know who are being affected by it, that can't go to certain areas, or that are a little hesitant, or when you look at the side effects that come along with gang violence,
Right.
such as friends, associations, and things like that, certainly that has changed, where certain people don't associate in certain areas, or certain people won't talk to certain people because
Right.
they don't want to be associated with that certain area. That certainly has a daily impact on everybody's life.
Okay. And how do you feel as a young lady? Majority of the men perpetrating these crimes and the victims, unfortunately, are young men. Does it affect the young ladies, at least, who they choose as, someone they're going out with now? Maybe if, you stay in the East End, you can't go out with her. But does that affect your decisions as a young lady?
Me personally, I cannot say it does, because I'm not interested in any of these gangsters, if you want to call them that. So me personally, it doesn't affect me, because I would never even see myself with any of these young men. I would rather be with someone who can go anywhere, who can do anything, and is actually going somewhere with their life. But I have plenty of girlfriends who, I mean, on a daily basis, it's, well, I don't know if I can go to this party because so-and-so, my boyfriend,
Right.
is beefing with this person in this side, so if I go to this party, you might get mad, or I can't go movies with my boyfriend, or dinner with my boyfriend, or lunch with my boyfriend in town because he can't leave West, or
Yeah.
he can't leave East. It's ridiculous.
I think that you bring up a very interesting point when you said, I don't associate with what you call in these gangsters. And I think that as a young man, I believe that, interestingly enough, the problem that our young men are facing can be addressed with our young women. In that if they don't accept what these young men are doing, if they don't condone it, if they don't have a mother that's going to accept them sitting out on the wall and then coming in at any time that they want, a girlfriend's house who they can sleep over when they're selling their drugs, if they don't have that support from the females, I'm a firm believer that falls by the wayside. They're going to have to make a decision that they're not going to do this, especially now when they don't have the mothers and the girlfriends or the wives even to tolerate this behavior.
I agree, but when you really look at it, it seems like a never-ending cycle and just a repeating cycle. Because when you really look at it, when you look at the types of girls, not to classify them all in one group, but when you look at a lot of these girls who are going with these gangsters or these people who seem to have no ambition and things like that, a lot of them would attribute that to their lack of a father figure or their lack of being raised properly, as some will say. You do have some well-raised people who will choose that type. But for the most part, a lot of these girls who are going with these guys are going for the same reason. The same insecurity that is causing these young males to do what they're doing is the same insecurity that is causing these women to choose these types of people in their lives. So it's not just like you have reputable young women who are choosing these types of people just for the fun of it. It seems to me like they go hand in hand with their insecurity, with their lack of trust, with their family being raised, and with the social issues that they face personally on a daily basis.
Right. And what I don't like to do is to classify them and say, the people perpetrating these crimes are victims of it, to say these people and how, they're as if they're a different people, because a lot of these young men are they're hurt. Like you said, they grew up without a father. And this, what we call a gang, to them is just a family. It's just a group of people in the neighborhood that hang out together. That if any problems go on, they have someone to have their back. And that's how they portray it. And so I think, how can we, as young people, get to them and let them know that you don't have to depend on the sale of drugs to get money?
It's not something that could be answered in a simple,
Absolutely.
just television or simple sentence. But certainly it has a lot to do with social issues, not just, obviously not gangs and guns, but when it comes to starting at the home with the family. Are their basic needs being met, where they don't have to go outside of their home for money? Are they coming home to a good meal at night? Are they coming home and other parents telling them to do their homework? It starts with simple things at home. It has knockoff effects when you come to education and things like that. A lot of these people turn to this life not simply because they don't have the education that they need, but because they don't want the education that they need, or they don't have the ambition or the drive to do with that education what they could do. So I certainly think it's not a simple answer, but it has a lot to do with home life, school life, as well as just support figures, support system that these types of people or that these types of individuals with certain issues have.
Absolutely. I think that there is a need for us as individuals, as a community, to show all of us as young people, hey, we care. We actually want to see you succeed. We want to see you, become somebody, a productive member of our society. Because sometimes that's all it is. That's what they see in what we call a gang. They see someone who sees potential in them. And if we can instill that from a very young age, I see potential in you, speak life into them, and I think they'll listen.
I completely agree. I think that young individuals who would consider themselves on the right track sort of have an obligation to look out for those other people who they see have potential in them.
Definitely.
Grab somebody in class that you see who's not performing at their best and say, look, let's do this, or let's get this work done. And I think that's on a day-to-day basis what students in schools should be doing, because we young people have a role to play in this as well when it comes to our fellow young people who are falling off of the path.
Absolutely. My question to you is, why do you feel that it's our young men that fall into these cliques and these gangs and not the young women? What is it that you seem to have an art to stay away from these things? Any advice for us as young men?
I feel like as young men, sometimes social pressures tell them that they should be a certain way, they should partake in certain things, they should act a certain way. And I think with girls, it's much less of the pressure, I guess you could say, or maybe, and the social pressures. And I've known of girls to be in gangs, if you want to call it that, and I've known of like girls to partake in that kind of stuff. But I think for the most part, girls just tend to stay away because they don't have the social pressures of, I have to act, for guys it's like, okay, I have to be manly. I have to act a certain way. I have to portray this testosterone. For girls, it's more of a, we play almost like the back role, many people will say. And so it's like, okay, well, the girls are just the ones that are the girlfriends, and we don't really have to do anything, or we don't really have to form a gang to feel element of family or whatnot, because just being friends with your best friend or your girlfriend, that's fine. So I think it's just the social pressures of boys that draw them into these bad environments, such as with the gangs.
So if you had, I'll ask you first, Ryan, any advice to the young people of Bermuda out there watching this? Any advice on the social issues that, there are some very real issues that us as young people have to face. And it may be that some of the older generation can't really empathize with us because they're not the ones facing it. As a young person facing these issues, senior in high school, a lot of people can relate to you. What is your advice to the young people of Bermuda?
My advice to students who would consider themselves successful, those straight A students, those A average students, my advice to you is, you don't have to just worry about yourself. You have a responsibility to contribute to your school environment as well as your community. So when you see that person that you might be acquaintances with them. I'm not saying go and talk to somebody that you're afraid of, but when you see that person in class who you're an acquaintance with, and you see that they're slipping behind or they're considering walking out of that class, grab them along. Sometimes, personally, I see some people at Berkeley, and I see them, walking away from that class when I say, you're going the wrong way, let's go. So I think that we need a lot more of that in particular, because a lot of these younger people who are falling and slipping through the cracks simply just need to be pushed in a certain direction. A lot of them aren't driven on doing a certain type of behavior. They just kind of dilly-dally and waver. So I think that there needs to be more of a pushing in the opposite direction, in the right direction, as opposed to letting these children just go about their daily activity. My advice to young people who may need a little extra help, if you want the help, it's out there. Go get it. If you don't want the help, there's not much I can say personally. There's not much I can suggest. I don't even know how to handle that type of situation if somebody doesn't want to do something. But my advice to parents, administrators, schools, things like that, is just show more of a commitment. We might say we don't want this type of behavior happening, but you have to have the fortitude to enforce it. We can't be afraid of young people who are engaging in bad behavior. We have to put our foot down and say that enough is enough. But at the same time, be out there, lend a helping hand, and provide the support that these young people need, that we as young people need to make it.
Thanks for that. And Ms. Smith, your advice to the young ladies out there facing some of the issues, what do you say? My
advice mirrors almost exactly with Ryan. The only thing I would add is, girls, you don't have to date a boy that is in the life, if you will. There are plenty of young men out there who are nothing like that, or have their head on straight, or have goals, or have, are trying to obtain something more than just a simple, I'm in West, I sell drugs, I have a sports city. There are plenty of young men out there who do not have those same goals, and being with someone like that is not going to get you anywhere. Relationships like that, I think, end after high school, maybe a little bit after, but you really won't go anywhere with that. And I think it's the same thing like when people say, like, don't carry around friends that you can't go anywhere with, that are just dragging you down. I think the same thing applies. Being with these boys, I feel, is just dragging these girls down, and when it comes down to it, they wake up, they're 25, they have 2 kids, and no education, nothing to fall back on, and it's like, okay, I wasted all that time, now I'm going to start over. I feel like that all can be avoided. And I'm not saying that these boys might not be good, but I think if you are going to get in a relationship with them, then your main goal, instead of encouraging them, should be to try to change them. To say, look, you don't have to do this, you can do this or like that.
I understand. And so the message I'm getting from both of you is keep no company around that you can't build with or learn from. Thank you.